Today's guest is someone that I find absolutely fascinating. She has taken philately to a whole new level, I think, and I'm really excited to introduce you to her. Her name is Denise Fisher, and Denise joins us from the UK. She is a children's book author, and I'm not going to steal too much of her show because she does have a presentation for us, but I'm going to give you a little brief background. Denise Fisher's late father was truly one of a kind. He was an immigrant from India. His name is Ernest G. Oehme, was a postman, a philatelist, and studied the postal history of India and Pakistan. Safe to say, his stamp collection was large. So large, his den was extremely chaotic, if fascinating place, which you can imagine for a children's book author, this is where dreams are launched. While deciding what to do with his vast collection, Denise received her father in a dream who told her to write about them. And so the Dada Gigi stamp stories was born. And this is where we launch off. Thank you, Denise, for joining us today. And you are on mute. There you go. Hi.
Thank you very much. Lovely to be with you.
It's wonderful to be with you. And again, we Denise joins us from the UK. So thank you for staying up and, fellowship across the pond. So if you want to go ahead and share your screen, that would be great. Like I said, friends, Denise has a really pretty presentation, so she can begin. I'm going to give her the reins to tell you her stamp story, if you will. And while she pulls up her share screen, I do invite everyone, whether you're on our Facebook live feed or our YouTube live feed, to ask questions, share your thoughts, et cetera, et cetera. How you doing on your end, Denise? You okay?
I'm getting there.
Okay.
I shared my screen.
Beautiful. So it'll catch up.
Right.
But in the background, you can see Denise's Dada work. And yes, your screen is just about live. And I hope everyone will enjoy. I think everyone will enjoy Denise just as much as I do. She's really so creative, and she just embodies Stamps Teach. And with that, I am going to back off and let Denise tell her story. Okay, you're on. Looking good.
He falls asleep because he's an octogenarian, so he has a habit of falling asleep at the most inopportune times. This is traveling through time and space. This was the first book I wrote about the first Post Office Act during the reign of Charles II, King Charles II. So it's all in poem form.
And did you tell us about, did we miss the beginning?
Did you miss the beginning? Should I?
Yeah, I thought there were a couple of slides where.
Can you see this?
We can.
Okay.
So Denise story, I kind of blew through your story and how this all came to be. I think the way you told it to me the other day was really beautiful.
Thank you. Well, my father's collection ended up in the garage, and my sisters and brothers, no one really wanted to take ownership of it. So it's sitting there. And during the lockdown, I decided to start going through it, but I didn't know what to do with it all. And I despaired that it might go into the recycling bin. So that was when my father came to me on the dream in May the 13th And the rest, as I say here, is history. And that's the second book.
And and so, yes, there we go. Good. First official.
Okay, I'm going to stop the share now, okay?
Are you sure?
I think it's finished.
Well, how about we go slide
Yeah.
by slide? So the process, your writing process is fascinating. How you
Okay.
how you chose a stamp and how you began to tell the story.
Oh, yes. Well, I literally had a box and I put my hand in, and the first stamp I took out was this one, which was the 3D general letter office. And I didn't know what it was about. And then I started researching it, and that's when I found out that it was the first Post Office Act, which was signed by King Charles II. But prior to that, his father had been beheaded by Cromwell and everything else. So it's all this history that came into it. And this is when Asher, this is the great grandson of Dada Gigi, he goes off on the journey with them, and they're going to see the king, King Charles II, sign the book. So he's come into the big house where an Umpapa band is outside. This is Cromwell. He's lurking around. He's a horrible character. And he was on, he was the protectorate of the England and everything before King Charles retook the throne, King Charles II. So that was the fashion. They had those big hairstyles in those days. That's him signing the first Post Office Act. This is book 3. So May the 13th, my dad came to me, and I'm going through the box, and I picked out another stamp, which turned out to be the 1966 World Cup. So that's going to be a book. I picked out another stamp, which is the duck stamp from the United States. So that will be a story about the duck stamp and the legislation for wildlife and everything else. And then on May the 14th, which is International Nurses Day, I put my hand in and I pick out this stamp, which is the one of Florence Nightingale. So as I've been researching Florence Nightingale, she was out in the Crimean War. Mother Seacole, Mary Jane Seacole, she was born in Jamaica, and she had healing qualities. Her mother was a healer. She looked after people with cholera. She looked after the British servicemen who were out in Jamaica at that time. And so although she didn't have a proper nursing degree, she was a good nurse. Well, she ended up in Crimea and was a very fascinating character. So I've decided to do the book about both of them and bring them into the story. And then I'm fundraising for Action for Children, which helps children in all kinds of manners. And then there's another charity here called ABBA Necessities, who look after women and children who have come out of abused homes. And there we are.
I just absolutely love your drawing style, Denise. It's so pretty. It's so whimsical.
It's not me.
Well,
it's not
you
me.
make it
Nora.
happen.
She's fabulous, actually. Yeah,
Who is it?
I tell her once and she does it. I tell her once and she does it. She's brilliant.
It really is. And it's fascinating to me. We do have it. I'd like to talk more about the duck stamp one. What brought your interest, or how did you find out about the duck stamp?
Well, going through all these different stamps from all over the place. Obviously, you heard a lot of Indian and Pakistani ones. Then I saw this duck stamp, and it was 3 cents, I think it is. I can't remember offhand. So I started to go into the research of what it was. So it was 1937 when the new law came in, I believe, to protect wildlife areas. It protected the ducks and the wildlife, and because it was being taken over for farming and what have you. And so that sort of piqued my interest, because I could, I've already got an idea that it's going to be a little girl from Hoboken, because there's some areas around that area, New Jersey and New York. And then I could bring Frank Sinatra into it. So,
right, Denise said you want Frank Sinatra in it.
Yeah, you know, something like that, maybe. So all these ideas are coming about the duck stamp. So I've been in contact with the wildlife and duck people in Virginia, and then I'm just in the process of getting the permission to reproduce the stamp. And then after, well, it's my 5th book. That'll be the 5th book.
Incredible. And so with the Florence Nightingale story, you wove two. Did they actually meet in real life, or that was?
They did. They met in Istanbul, which was Constantinople. That was where Florence Nightingale had her nursing hospital, but she wasn't too keen on having a coloured person. Unfortunately, Florence Nightingale came from a very wealthy family, and even though her parents didn't like her becoming a nurse, she carried on and she did it, and obviously did a lot of good. And then you have on the other side Mary Seacole, who came from a holistic background, really, and she did a lot of good with saving people from cholera and yellow fever and all that kind of thing. And obviously with her nursing as well, when she nursed the servicemen who were out in Jamaica. And then she was in South America in the Panama Canal when they had the gold rush. She'd set up a shop there. Then she went all the way over. She came to England. She got friendly, because of all the servicemen, she got friendly with the royal family and things like this. And then because Florence Nightingale said that they didn't need her services, she took herself off on her own, had a partner in a business, and set up literally a shack to sell wares and nurse the servicemen. She did such a good job. That's why she was called Mother Seacole. But she came back to the UK and she was almost penniless, because after the war, all the servicemen went, so she couldn't sell things and what have you. And when she came back, the servicemen who she'd looked after heard of her plight, and they organized a big jamboree to get money, fundraise for her. And 80,000 people turned up over 2 days, because she'd helped all these people. So she's a right character. I love her to bits.
And so she's obviously on a stamp.
She has a stamp. Oops, sorry, my light bulb's just gone.
Perfect.
That's great. I mean, I'm in the dark now. She's on a stamp for the portrait that was done of her, which was for prominent Black people. That was done a few years ago. And then obviously there was the stamp that's on the stamp for Florence Nightingale, celebrates her life.
And had you known about these women before you found the stamp?
Yeah, I didn't know anything about Mary Seacole. So, you know, that's what I love, is the research.
And I think what my personal connection with what you do is, so many people in the hobby do love the research.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm fascinated by writers such as yourself who take the research and then spin a yarn. I just think that that's fascinating. And how you've been able to not only spin a yarn, but create children's stories.
Yeah, I love it. I absolutely love it. Having a great time.
Is there the activity, the Postal Pop activity?
It's just a template for the child to draw a stamp, and I'm trying to encourage them to send it to me so I can put it on Facebook and Twitter and that, to draw and color their own stamp. So that's at the back of the book.
And so when you get the book, then the kiddo can draw in it and then upload it and send it to you?
Yep. Yeah, I'd love that. Absolutely love that. I mean, to get them engaged and maybe, think about if they think, oh, that's interesting about that stamp. What other stamps are there,
And so do you have what have you done with your dad's collection? Did you put it away? Did you?
I'm still sorting through it all. There's boxes and boxes and boxes. There's so much stuff. And then there's his what he studied, the postal history of India and Pakistan. So there's all his writings and his articles that he did and everything else. So I mean, there's a lot of stuff there. What I would like is I've got a lot of Indian and Pakistan stamps which are repeated. And if anyone's interested in them, if they pay the postage, I'll send them to them for free.
You heard that on record, guys. You can use the comment box either live or let's put about a 3-month limit on this if it's on YouTube, and you can leave your comments and we'll get you in touch with Denise. That's super cool. Speaking of your father and his love of the Indian and Pakistan Post, tell us about the airmail book a little bit, would you? Because we've had a few stamp chats on Indian airmail.
Yeah, because my father was German Indian, and my mother's Scottish Indian. So we have the Indian connection anyway. With the first airmail flight, that was another stamp that I took out. And so I went into the history of it. So on the 18th of February, 1911, it was the 110th anniversary of the first official airmail flight. So at the back of the book is a brief history, and it tells you you had pigeon flight, you had hot air balloons, you had jet airplanes, and biplanes and things like that. So all the different types. And by one day, the Americans missed out on having the official airmail flight, because they did it on the 17th. It wasn't an official one. And then it was just like a few days later when they had an official airmail flight. So there's a big festival, the Hindu festival of Maya Kumbh Mela. I might have the pronunciation wrong when I apologize. And that's done every 12 years. And this particular time, on the 18th of February 1911, it was in Allahabad in India. And Sir Walter Wyndham, who was a Royal Navy commander, he was quite a fascinating chap as well when I started researching him. He did the first London to Brighton motor rally, and he'd already circumnavigated the globe twice, But you're talking about the early 1900s. He was organizing these aerial displays, and it was a church in Allahabad, Christian church, that needed a new roof. And so they spoke to each other, and he suggested that they do this special event, the first airmail flight. So it took off from Allahabad, went just over the river to Naini Junction, which is the main train line that goes to Bombay and Calcutta. And they charged a little bit extra for the stamps so that the extra money could go towards the funds for the roof. And Henry Piquet was the pilot, French pilot, and they used a biplane, and it was a magnificent affair. So there we are.
I just love that it's in, that you wrote about it, because had I not gotten in personally, had I not gotten into philately and into the hobby, I wouldn't have known anything about airmail, and you're planting a seed at a, for a very young age, and who knows what that could inspire in a kid.
Young person, yeah.
Yes.
That's right. It is so fascinating. My father used to spend hours and hours at the British Library when he wasn't working, because in those days we didn't have the internet, so he'd be there going through the books to find out all the different things. When he was studying the postal marks of Indian and Pakistani postal marks, a tiny dot on the postal mark could tell you the train, the time, the day that post was taken. I mean, he knew all this, and unfortunately, I never listened to him. A lot of people, when they have somebody with a hobby who you think is a bit boring, it's like, oh, Dad, they're not really interested. And now it's like, I think, oh, I wish I'd listened to him.
Well, that's just it, Denise. It's a dot, right? So at the time, we're like, okay, but now, but then we grow into it, and it becomes so fascinating that, oh, these dots tell a story too.
That's right. Yes. Yeah. Dots tells a story. A line tells a story. Amazing.
So what's been your favorite?
He wrote all about that.
What's that?
Sorry. I said he wrote all about those different things.
What's been your favorite? Who is your favorite character? Do you have a couple characters that stick out that you're so glad that you learned about? Yes.
Oh, that I learned about. Well, Mary Seacole at the moment has taken first place because she was a pioneer. She was she calls herself Yeller, right? Yeller. That's how she calls herself in her book, which is what I'm reading at the moment. Can you see that?
Yes.
Not very well. Yeah, my lamp went. I'm sorry about that, folks. But because of she was a free Jamaican, but wasn't really treated the same as a white person. She wasn't a black person. She was in between, sort of thing. Because her father was Scottish and her mother was a free Jamaican as well. But the fact that she took herself off and did all this traveling on her own in the 1800s, just incredible. She felt she needed to go to the Crimea to go and help those people, and she got herself there. I just think that's just marvelous.
Well, you said she was in the Panama Canal, then she ends up in California with the gold rush. The woman was all over the world.
She didn't get to California exactly. It's because the people were coming through the Panama Canal to go to California for the gold rush. So she had like a little hotel type thing, and she would service the people with food and stalls and things like that. And that's what she was doing. And then obviously when they got sick, she'd nurse them.
And I mean, the Panama Canal, that was a notorious area. If those walls could talk, is what I'm trying to spit out. That's so. Have you been able to get out there, or how are you promoting your book to kids? Is it in libraries?
I'm not really promoting it as such. My dad's hobby were the stamps, and my hobby is writing the books. But I would like to get it as a animated cartoon series or something like that. That would be get somebody to come in to write a script for it. I probably wouldn't necessarily write a script, but get somebody in to do a cartoon series because it's educational as well as being, you know, fun. And you could have them going all over the place and in all manners, you know, because they use the mailing magic of the sorting stick, which if they're holding on to it, they're invisible. They're visiting these places and they're invisible. So, but if they let go, they become visible. So you've got that element, and they can travel through time, they can travel through space, you know, it doesn't matter. They can do anything with it, and they don't suffer cold or anything like that unless something happens, which it might do.
It might do, but it'll resolve itself, won't it? Because they've got
Always
that
a happy
sorting.
ending.
Always a happy ending.
Yeah.
Well, when I came in, I was speaking with Nora, and you know, hashtag Nora's desk for anybody who follows her. And she was fascinated, and it reminded her of like the Magic School Bus series. Which
Okay.
I don't know if you're aware of, but it's similar, where these two kids, you know, they get to travel through space and time.
Oh, fabulous.
But to do it through stamps, I really hope that we're able to, if we have any animators out there who are, who've been looking for inspiration or, you know, serendipity, here's your chance with Denise Fisher over
There you go.
in England with her fabulous
In
story. Can you
Scotland.
tell us
In
about the
Scotland.
name before we go? Dada Gigi, was that?
Dada Gigi is Dada great-grandfather. It was my mother's Nana great-grandmother. So Dada Gigi, and then Stamp Stories, obviously. And then book one, there'll be book 1, 2, 3, 4, and then they'll each have a subtitle of whatever the stamp is.
And so, friends, before we bid adieu, where can we get your books, Denise? We can get it on Amazon or any
The first
local
book is,
bookstores?
yeah, the first one is through me directly, and the second one, the rest of them will be through Amazon.
Okay, and
So Kindle ebook and paperback.
And they'll go through your website. You want to go ahead and give everybody your website?
It's www.dadagigi.com.
Gigi there. For friends, I put that in the chat box in case you're looking for it. I mean, these make great birthday gifts, gifts for your library, gifts for the teachers, because they just seem like the perfect stories to read at story time, you know, just 15 minutes and then stop and it just keeps on going. Well, I really appreciate you, Denise, for coming on.
Abundantly thankful. Thank you.
And I really hope that, you know, you keep in touch and you let us know what the upcoming books are. And if you do find that animator, I would love to be able to watch it and of course, share it. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. That's
friends,
been brilliant.
It's been such a pleasure. And please know, this is just another a doorway to the hobby. Always, I encourage philatelists and hobbyists to open that door widely and generously at a girl, and we can get creative. It's a wonderful way to get people interested in stamps, as we all know very well. Stamps teach in really creative ways and about information that a lot of us, we don't learn in school, and you could inspire somebody, who otherwise would not be inspired. So that's pretty powerful. Stamp Chat is a production of the American Philatelic Society. Whether you're researching, shopping on Stamp Store, or renewing your membership, remember it's stamps.org. Thanks for joining us today. Please like and subscribe to the APS YouTube channel, and you can keep the conversation going there using the comment box. Until next time, connect and collect. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and of course on stamps.org. The APS, social since 1886. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining us. Bye, Denise.